G'day guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you about something that's super important to me, and I think it's something that a lot of us guys are struggling out there with, and that's fixing our relationship with our training and with our nutrition. This is something that I struggled with heavily over the years, even as a coach, as a personal trainer, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it with my own experience and also some of the takeaways that I found helpful, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of value and some takeaways from the video today so you can make sure you're maximizing your training performance, your physique, but you're also maintaining great mental well-being. So if you followed the channel for a while now, you'll know that I've dabbled in a little bit of powerlifting, bodybuilding, bit of Muay Thai, and now I'm really into my running. I've done a fair few things with my training, and to be honest, one of the biggest shifts that I had that changed my own perspective but my relationship with training was having goals at the end of it that weren't just related to me looking a certain way in the mirror or a certain way that I could confidently post thirst traps up on my stories on Instagram. So backtracking, before I even did a fitness competition in 2018, I was heavily obsessed with how my body looked. And what happened with my relationship with training was that I started to focus on how many calories I was burning all the time. If I was going for a run or doing some HIIT training in the gym, or if I was just lifting weights, I was always looking at how much energy I expended. And this also negatively impacted my relationship with food, because then I'd be looking at how much I could eat and still be in a deficit at times. So largely this stemmed from the fact that I was always trying to reduce body fat. And to be honest with you, as helpful as they can be, one of the worst things for me at this point in time was wearing an Apple Watch. It would tell me how many calories I was burning in a session. And in conjunction with that, looking at my phone and jumping on MyFitnessPal is something that really held me back at the time, and I became very obsessive with it. Do I think people are more predisposed to this based on their own psychology and behaviors? Yes. Not everyone is going to have the same issues that I had or some of that you guys listening are having, but hopefully it's relatable for some of you guys that are having these problems. So I actually dealt with this for months, even years, this cycle of just burning energy and tracking my food and seeing how much food I could have. So when I look at my relationship with my nutrition and with my training, they obviously stemmed from my dissatisfaction with how I looked, with my physical body composition. So one thing that I want to emphasize in this video today is, if you have issues with your training and with your nutrition, or maybe you're not aware of them and this is going to highlight that for you, you really need to start to create more self-awareness around your relationship with your own body, because that is directly going to impact your relationship with the way that you exercise, the way that you train, and the way that you eat. Now, the funny thing is that out of all the little training goals that I set up myself with the bodybuilding, powerlifting, Muay Thai, and running, bodybuilding was probably the worst thing for my relationship with my body. I was already waking up each day and going to bed each night, looking at myself in the mirror, thinking I'm too fat or I need to build more muscle, whatever it may have been. I was always putting myself down. And now I'd committed to a goal that makes me jump on a stage and get judged by other people for this, something that I was already doing myself. Now, I'm not saying that bodybuilding or doing this sort of competition is bad for everyone, but it just is what it is. You're literally getting judged on the way that you appear. And if you're someone who's got a negative relationship with their body, this is for damn sure going to affect your training and your nutrition. If you're someone who is struggling with that, I would not recommend you compete in a sport like this. However, if you're someone who has got a good relationship with their training and their food, to be honest, something that I got out of competing in that bodybuilding competition was the amount of grit that I had to have throughout that process. It was grueling towards the end of it, having low energy, having to push through, having to train when I didn't feel like it, not having the physical energy to actually push through, and relying on a lot of caffeine and hard music at times. So if you are someone stuck in that loop where you're always training for aesthetics, or you are competing in bodybuilding, what I would highly recommend, something that I did to support me, was make different goals that weren't just based off my physical appearance. Focus on getting stronger. Maybe think about doing a powerlifting competition, or at least setting some rep max benchmarks in the gym. You need to start to shift the goalpost if you are constantly fixated on the way that you look. And having aesthetic goals isn't that. I am all for someone trying to improve their physical appearance, as it will help with their confidence. And this is what I do with guys through my coaching in person and online. But one thing that we need to keep in mind is, just because you've got a set of abs and bicep veins doesn't mean you're going to be confident. It doesn't mean that you're going to be happy, because that runs far deeper than what any selfie or any body fat percentage on a set of scales is going to give you. So moving beyond this damaged relationship, my training and my food, where I was just focused on how much energy I could burn and how much food I was allowed to eat and still be in a calorie deficit, what I noticed over time, and I was still able to actually get quite lean, I still had somewhat of an aesthetic goal, but I had a better relationship with my training and a better relationship with food, was to stop being so obsessive with tracking it all. One of the best things for me over time was either taking my Apple Watch off, or I would stop tracking my training through the watch and I would just see how many steps I was getting in a day just to get a good idea. Otherwise, I would have the watch off completely and I just wouldn't be obsessive with about hitting these 10,000 steps every day when I know I was already doing that each day again and again. Now, the other thing is that MyFitnessPal did its job. It taught me how much energy was in the foods that I was eating. And because I'm quite a consistent eater, I like to have similar meals just for ease and convenience, I didn't need to track it all the time. And even the times that I was eating out at different restaurants, I knew how to eyeball my meals and I knew what I could eat and what changes that I need to make because I had educated myself on that over time through MyFitnessPal, but also my own nutrition education. And funnily enough, I got in some of the best shape of my life without tracking my training, without tracking my food, without those technologies. For anyone that is just getting into the scene, I would highly recommend using these things to give you some metrics. But once it becomes too obsessive, and I don't mean to the point it's just causing you a bit of pressure and stress because you actually need to adhere to something, but I mean you're getting to the point where you are literally ticking off the boxes all the time, but you're getting more and more obsessed and it's starting to have a negative impact on your mental health and maybe even on the people around you. That's where you need to take a different approach, a more intuitive approach to your training and to your nutrition. As with all things training nutrition, whether you should track your workouts and track your food with MyFitnessPal or any other app is a matter of if and when. If you need to use that to keep you accountable, if you haven't done it for long enough to actually see what behaviors and habits and learn how much energy is in food, if you aren't at that point yet, then you may need to keep using it. If you've got to the point where you've got consistent habits and you are really good with nutrition, you've got a great meal structure across every given day, and you can still eat flexibly without feeling guilty, why are you still using it? It's a sense of control. What a lot of people don't like to release is that sense of control. Understandably, because if it's the thing that actually got you results, why would you want to remove that? But this is where we tend to look at it the wrong way. It wasn't actually the watch, or it wasn't actually MyFitnessPal getting you the results. It was the fact that you were moving your body, you were living an active lifestyle, and you're making better food choices, skills that you built over time. Once you've built these skills up, hey, maybe every now and again you have to put the watch back on or start tracking the workout or pick MyFitnessPal back up and start tracking your food again. But you shouldn't need to live this way. Those are probably my biggest insights throughout this whole experience. But now I want to talk about having performance-based goals and potentially shifting the goalpost when it comes to what you're training towards. Once I shifted the goalpost with what I was training towards, it was no longer an aesthetic goal and my relationship with food and my training had started to improve. I started to look towards Muay Thai. And after that, I started to look to running. The thing that these two goals had in common is that they allowed me to move my body a lot. I expended a lot of energy. I was able to maintain a decent level of body composition. If I needed to cut down at times, that was quite easy. But I wasn't tracking how much energy that I was burning in these sessions any given day. And again, because I'd educated myself over time using MyFitnessPal with my tracking, I had a good understanding of how much food that I should be eating. So when it came to Muay Thai and it came to running, the other thing that I'm focused on is not just the way I look. I'm focused on what my punch looks like, what my kick looks like. Can I flow better? Can I hit the pads better? Can I kick a little bit harder? Can I spar better? Can I not get punched in the face as much? When it came to my running, can I work on my technique a little bit more? Can I run a little bit further? Can I run a little bit farther? Can I keep my heart rate down when I'm running at a certain intensity or a certain speed? There's so many other metrics that I'm moving towards. Now, what about lifting weights in the gym? We've got so many other things to focus on just beyond the way we look. How about how many reps you're hitting at that weight? How about how much weight you can lift on your squat, your bench, your deadlift? Can you do a pull-up? Is there any other movements like calisthenics-based movements that you could be looking at learning how to do? Is there any skills that you could develop in the gym? And if not, just think about how gym is supporting your other training modalities. For me, when I started to shift my training in the gym to support my Muay Thai performance, I enjoyed it a lot more and I saw the transfer. Nowadays, I'm not so focused on the bodybuilding or powerlifting style lower body training, but I still incorporate some of what I learned to support my running performance. I'm still able to train upper body a little bit more because my legs aren't so taxed, and I can still enjoy that aesthetic side of it, but I'm still focused on getting stronger. Can I do some more pull-ups? Can I add some more weight to my pull-ups? Can I get a little bit more on the bench press? Whatever it may be. Now, one thing that I don't want to miss out of this video today that slipped my mind before is one of the worst things that I feel like I ever did for cardio training. I used to go into the gym and I'd put that treadmill on an incline and sit there trying to distract myself from how boring it was by watching Netflix series whilst I was training for the bodybuilding competition and for the next 6 to 12 months after. This was the most boring way to do cardio. When I look at doing Muay Thai or going for a run or maybe playing like a little bit of soccer, there's so many other things that you could be doing that are enjoyable. When you look at the main point of cardio from an aesthetics point of view, it's literally just burning more energy. Why don't you go do something that you enjoy? Why don't you go even just for a walk outside, even if it's a little bit longer? Go for a jog, go for a cycle, learn a combat sport, do something enjoyable. Because when it comes down to it, do you think you're really going to look back in 10, 20 to 30 years time and go, I'm glad I used to do so much walking on a treadmill? Or are you going to be more proud of the fact that you've actually got some skills that you've learned over time, and the fact that your health is probably better because you got a bit more sun exposure, you're a bit more social, you weren't just sitting there or walking, with your earphones in, ignoring the world and distracting yourself from the boringness of the activity that you're doing. That is probably one of my final go-to pieces of advice when it comes to building a better relationship with training is do stuff that you actually enjoy doing. If you're not enjoying building muscle anymore, or not enjoying powerlifting or running or Muay Thai, if you've done those things, you want to do something else, go do it. Like, stop basing your identity off the training that you do. Go do or learn something else that you're going to enjoy so you build a better relationship with training and a better relationship with your body. And the final point I'm going to make today is make sure that you fuel that body. You can still focus on being lean and making better food choices. But if you're someone who's always trying to do the fasted workouts or go low carb, you're missing the point of training. We're training to perform better as humans. We want to make the most out of what our body can do. And if you're always in a calorie deficit, or you're always fasted, or you're always low on carbs, when you go to do any sort of higher intensity training, whether it be a combat sport, any sort of high intensity running, you're not going to have the fuel source available to do so. That's enough out of me for today, guys. I hope this gives you a little bit of value from my own experience. Again, some of the tips in there are the same things that I tell one of my clients. Train the way you enjoy to train. Eat to fuel your body. Don't obsess with the scales and your body fat percentage. Yes, they're metrics that may be relative to your goal, but there's more going on with your training and nutrition and what your body can do than what the scale weight's going to show. Sorry guys, the battery pack cut out today, so I don't have the time to get that on charge now and film this all again. So I'm going to add this clip onto the end. But yeah, anyone who would like to join up to the Forge program, if you want to build a leaner, stronger, more endurable body, and if you are open to doing some breath work and journaling practices so you can also focus on improving your mental well-being, you can apply through the link below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you stay tuned for the next Daily Discomfort podcast video released Sunday at 6 a.m. And otherwise, I'll see you in the YouTube video next Wednesday. See you guys.